Total War Warhammer 3's launch is just around the corner, and there are a lot of different options for campaigns in the base game across Cathay, Demons, Ogres, and Kislev. Altogether, you're looking at 12 legendary lords, and with that is quite the decision of which campaign you want to play. In this video series, I'll be giving you a spoiler-free campaign overview to help you decide if it's the right campaign for you. Each campaign will play differently with an emphasis on a particular playstyle, unit choice, or mechanic. Our next video in this series will highlight the Ice Queen of Kislev, Katarin, the daughter of Boris Ursus and the leader of the Ice Court faction housed in the great capital city of Kislev. You'll be able to find the rest of these videos as they're made linked in the playlist in the upper right corner and the end of this video. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do these videos is by giving you a no spoiler breakdown. I'll boot the game up on turn 1 of the campaign, I'll explain the mechanics of the character in question, show you their skills, quickly show off their research tree, and then give you an overall idea of what the campaign plays like. Keep in mind, this is not a guide, but a quick campaign overview to help you decide which campaign to play when Total War Warhammer 3 launches. Feel free to jump ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters noted in the timeline and the description. Before we get started, if you have not yet pre-ordered Warhammer 3 and intend on buying the game, you can support the channel by using the link to my Nexus Store. Nexus provides Steam keys directly from the developer, and I get a cut of every sale, which helps keep the channel alive. Lastly, if you end up enjoying the content, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. I cannot tell you how much it helps out. Let's get started here on Ice Queen Katarin's campaign summary in Total War Warhammer 3. Loading into the campaign, we're at turn 1 here for Lady Katarin. Let's take a look at her faction mechanics and buffs. So she gets the ruler of the Ice Court here as well, the ruler of the Ice Court. This is devotion generated 10 from successful Frost Maiden hero actions. This is obviously the counter to Kosteltians, which is focused more on patriarchs. Control +6. Your hero recruitment rank +3 for Frost Maidens, then Ice Court training duration -2. So Ice Court typically takes 8 turns. She would have it go through in 6 turns instead. If you're talking about a Frost Maiden, I believe it's a little bit more for the actual Ice Witch, which is the Lord variant. Going through her climates, she gets Frozen, Mountain, and Temperate climates as suitable. For Unpleasant, she gets Wasteland, Temperate Island, Savannas, and then jungles. Then uninhabitable, she gets magical forests, oceans, chaotic wasteland, and then her desert. These are the faction effects here for the Ice Court. Now we're going to jump into her specific faction mechanics here across Adamans, the Motherland, and the Ice Court. I've already recorded these on some of the other versions of the Kislevian lords that we've covered so far. So if it seems like it's the same one from another video, it's because it is the same mechanic. She shares the same Motherland mechanic as Kosteltian. Boris's mechanic is different in that he supports differently. So let's jump into some of those mechanics now. The first mechanic I want to talk about is the Motherland, and this is split into 2 separate parts, invocations and supporters. So for invocations, you would use one of these, you'd invoke one of the gods of Kislev and bestow their blessing across the Motherland. And these abilities will last for 10 turns. They will cost you devotion, which we'll get into a second here. But it is worth noting that you can only have 1 invocation active at a time. So even if you've not gone through all 10 turns of, say, invoking Salyak, you maybe are 8 turns into it, and you want to invoke Dodge, it will overwrite your invocation to Salyak, and the invocation of the Motherland will now be Dodge. So these will all cost, like I said, devotion, and defending Kislev against the forces of chaos will produce devotion along with pious buildings. Consume your devotion by invoking the Motherland, which will bolster your territory and allow the gain of supporters. You gain devotion with certain buildings, characters, certain events, fighting chaos, and there's actually a post-battle option after you fight chaos to then sacrifice the captives to chaos, giving you even, to Kislev, not to chaos, giving you even further devotion. Certain hero actions and then certain technologies will all grant you devotion. Then it's used, of course, in these invocations, in the invoking the Motherland, but also whenever you declare war on another Kislev nation, which will also drain from your supporters. Certain events, certain buildings will also require you to spend construction. Also, there are certain technologies that will require devotion as well. And then when you invoke each one of these Motherlands, you get these bonuses. So let's take a look at the first one here with Salyak. 1 supporter gained when you have a character rank increase, with also 20 growth and 8% casualty rate replenishment increased. Moving into dodge here. Supporters generated 1 when constructing a building, income from trade plus 15%, and income from all buildings plus 8%. With Urson, we get supporters generated 5 when occupying a settlement, causes attrition to enemy armies within your territory, which is quite nice, and the Bitterness of Winter army ability, which will lower leadership, lower speed, and drain vigor in a 35-meter radius around wherever you decide to place this. Also, it has got 3 uses, as well as the ability here for Tor. So this is going to give you 2 supporters when fighting any battle. Army ability Wrath of the Bear, which is going to increase AP and base weapon damage by 50%, and then melee attack plus 5% for all armies. That is your Motherland mechanic for the invocations. But let's look at the supporters here. So if you've played Total War Saga Troy, you probably remember this little gauge here whenever you played Hector or Paris. And the way that works here is it's just horizontal rather than vertical. But really what happens is that you're pretty much vying for control of the motherland from the Ice Court or the Great Orthodoxy, depending on whether you're playing Katarin or Kosteltian. And each one of these characters will move up this gauge. And you gain these supporters from buildings, events, fighting chaos, or invoking the motherland. And as you've seen, you get 2 supporters when fighting a battle if you've got Tor invoked, for example. But then you lose supporters through certain events or by fighting against Kislev. You'll lose 2 supporters every Kislev battle. So the way to kind of offset that is you would use the Invocation of Tor, which would gain you 2. It becomes a wash. So that's important because you want to try to confederate all of Kislev and not conquer it, but sometimes it's just not the case. And as you progress up this, you'll get these different benefits. So diplomatic relations plus 10 with Kislev, 2 control, 5 leadership, 2% speed. And as you jump into each one to growing influence, to increasing popularity, to establishing dominance, you'll gain more and more of these bonuses. But then lastly, you get Loyalist Supremacy, which will be obviously a huge bonus to all the previous ones. As the player, by the way. So if you are playing as Katarin and a Kosteltian gets to this point, it won't happen. As the player, you will confederate your political opponent. So again, if you're playing as Katarin, you will confederate Kosteltian, not the other way around if Kosteltian is an NPC. So I know that question will come up and just worth talking about here. So this is a way to just basically force Kislev to unite, playing into the supporters mechanic, which you can then use devotion or coin to reduce the support of your opponent. So if you're playing as Kosteltian and you want to reduce the supporters that the Ice Court has, you can pay 5,000 gold and it reduces the supporters by 50, or use devotion of 200 and it reduces those supporters by 50 yet again. You'll find that the mechanic around this is geared towards trying to unify Kislev as much as possible, trying to confederate the other sub-factions of Kislev into one umbrella, again, as fast as possible, because it all is kind of geared towards your technology and everything. You need to unite these lands. Of course, too, if you want to unlock Boris Ursus, you need control of Erengrad, Kislev, and Prague anyway. So this is your motherland mechanic for Kislev, and this all links into this mechanic right here, the Chaos Incursion mechanic. So the way that this is, it's linked to your devotion. So right now it says devotion is low. There's a small chance of a Chaos Incursion appearing in your land soon. So this will be either this little symbol, this little Chaos Demon, or it will be a shield. If it's a shield, it's saying, hey, you're good, you have a high enough devotion, so there will not be a Chaos Incursion upon your land. But the lower your devotion, the higher the chance, the larger the army. So you could randomly just have a Chaos army appear in your land that you then have to contend and fight against, no matter what legendary lord you're playing in Kislev. Moving into the Ice Court, we have the ability to train up your heroes and lords that are, well, coming from the Ice Court, your Frost Maidens and your Ice Witches. Now, these characters, you'll have to actually unlock the specific technologies to actually go ahead and train them up. And once you do, you spend some money, they jump into this little slot, and they'll be training there for, say, 8 turns. Now, during that process, and I don't want to show it to you because I don't want to spoil it. It's a very fun little kind of build your own hero, build your own lord kind of process, not in the same way as the Demon Prince. You just have these dilemmas that you'll be faced with that will help shape the character as they come into the game. And they'll get a lot of traits that will then be applied. Stuff like -4 to corruption, or increasing control, or increasing the melee attack of your entire army. So you can decide, is this going to be a hero that mainly goes around the campaign map supporting you? Is it going to be a hero that supports your army? Is this going to be a brand new lore that is meant to push your frontier? Or is it a lore that's maybe meant to stay domestically and help support growing your faction? That's the kind of cool thing about the Ice Court, is you get to build these heroes and lords out before they even come into the game. It is a brand new mechanic here, and as you research them, you'll be able to unlock more and more of their presence in your campaign for whatever legendary lord you're playing for Kislev. Jumping forward a little bit, we have the Adamant's mechanic for all 3 of your legendary lords for Kislev. And the way that this works here is that you need to have at least 2 provinces, because for every 2, you get access to an Adamant. Assign an Adamant to govern a province, conferring bonus effects. 1 Adamant can be assigned for every 2 provinces that you own. You've got your list of Adamants right here. You've got your provinces on the map, and you just simply click this to assign them. But above these little assigning portholes, you have got these flags, and that's going to give you your income, your control, your growth, and then your corruption details. So basically what's going on in those provinces. Then you'll see on this case over here, this little red next to it shows what the Adamant is influencing. He's giving +5 to income and +10 to growth. Looking over at all of our available Adamants, you can see that there's other ones that give just simply corruption reduction. Some give you growth and corruption reduction. This one just gives you a ton of income. It's whatever you want to focus on is the Adamant that you would then place in that slot. It takes a turn for it to get there, and then it pops in. So here's some of the cool things though about that Adamant, because just like the Ice Court, you're going to be dealing with dilemmas every handful of turns, and those dilemmas are going to confer these passive bonuses onto the Adamants. Stuff like, oh, here's an increase to the control that they help out with. Or this will actually give them a military bonus and help out with melee attack for the entire army. You're basically getting a whole ton of these passive bonuses onto the Adamant over time. But in desperate times, you can actually pull them out from their position as an Adamant onto the battlefield as a set Boyar Lord. The thing to kind of keep in mind with this is they will recruit at the rank of 1, or if you have a bunch of technologies and skills that would increase your lord rank, that would help increase it. But even if they have a ton of Adamant abilities, they still will come out at rank 1. But the nice thing is that they will not have an upkeep on them until you pull them out. So a lot of players that go through Total War, they might choose to have a legendary lord that stays domestically and boosts the economy, right? Just a lot of control or a lot of corruption reduction, whatever it is. But you unfortunately have to deal with your supply lines and the upkeep that lord would cost you. The Adamant does not, unless we jump down into our city, we press recruit lord, and you see we've got our standard boyars. We'll click Adamant. We now have the Adamant we can just pull into our lands here, right? So you can see it's going to cost us just a 245. There's no actual cost association with him in this screen, so it's quite nice to just kind of jump this guy into the battlefield whenever you want. In addition to, after his amount of turns, if you dismiss him, you can put him back to Adamant if you so wish. But in the meantime, you can just simply appoint another one from the list on the left over here. So that is the new Adamant's mechanic here for Total War Warhammer 3 in Kislev. Moving over to character skills here for Tzarina Katarin, we have some very interesting ones. So her trait is Ice Queen, which is going to reduce corruption -6, upkeep reduction of 50% for Ice Guard units, and then a miscast base chance -50% as well for her. That's her starting army down here. So you can see she starts with 2 Ice Guard, some armored Kossars, and then some winged Lancers and a Snow Leopard Panther. A Snow Leopard. And then for her abilities here, she gets Ice Maiden's Kiss, which is a spell, as well as Ice Sheet, which we'll look at in just a little bit here. But for her passive abilities and resistances, it's all standard fare. Nothing unique to her aside from By Our Blood, which is the Kislevite unique. For her actual character stats, she has a little bit more weapon strength than even Kostaltian here, with 105 AP, 195 base weapon. 50 melee attack with 45 melee defense, 80 leadership at 60 and 46 speed, as well as 15 armor and sub 3000 health. She is, of all the characters we've talked about so far, she is the first pure caster. I mean, you could argue that it could be Kairos Fateweaver, but Kairos has even more of a profile because he's still a greater demon at the end of the day. So Tzarina doesn't have the tankiest stats, but she still can do quite a bit of damage here. So let's now move into some other things she gets in her skill tree. We're going to talk about her bottom line in just the typical standard fare blue line bottom line here. So Route Marcher, her control, recruitment cost reduction, attrition, and corruption reduction. Draft Master helping out with recruitment rank and local recruitment capacity. Lightning Strike, as I've said with pretty much all these videos, it is new here for Warhammer 3 in that you can do the standard old school Warhammer 1 and 2 Lightning Strike that would cut off reinforcements, but your army would have a slight vigor penalty, or you just simply would increase the enemy battle reinforcement time by 50%, whatever you choose. Quartermaster to help out with upkeep, Logistician to help out with casualty replenishment rate, and then Alert for ambush defense chance. Lastly, you get Renowned and Feared with upkeep, campaign movement range, hero self-defense, enemy hero action success chance, and then recruitment rank for your Lord's army. For your red line, you get the new Warhammer 3 Inspiring Presence red line. Start with, that's going to give you 75 unit experience in your Lord's army, as well as characters or a leadership effect. Then you're going to jump into bonuses here for your Kossars and Armored Kossars, your bonuses for Zargard and Ice Guard, for Kossovite Dervishes, Winged Lancers, Griffin Legion, and Horse Archers. And then your War Bear Riders, Elemental Bears, and Snow Leopard units. You definitely want to focus on those Snow Leopard units as well as the Ice Guard and Zargard for Tzarina. That's really pretty much her focus. And then Skilled Craftsman here is going to help out with War Sleds and Little Grom. She gets a Rally, the corresponding rank 7 bonuses for all the units we just mentioned, and then Stand Your Ground. Then for her casting, she gets the pure casting kit for the Lore of Ice. She doesn't have a custom kit or anything like that. So she starts off with Ice Maiden's Kiss as an actual spell that she has access to. Then Frost Shield is the lore attribute, increasing armor and missile block chance. Very nice. Then we get Ice Sheet, Frost Blades, again increasing your AP and weapon base and AP damage as well as melee attack here. Your Death Frost, which is going to be basically a single target damage over time of 25 to 50. Evasion, Crystal Sanctuary, which locks a unit in place but gives them 60% damage resistance. Heart of Winter, which has a cascading exploding damage effect that will slow things down across 4 phases, each one lasting 8 seconds, and increasing in its damage per second from 28 to 56 all the way up to 113 to 225. It is very devastating. There's a lot of damage. It just takes a little time for it to come online. Earthing for miscast base chance reduction, and then Winds of Magic Power Reserve plus 20% when increasing for magical reserves. Then lastly, the new Arcane Conduit, which is now a just constant 40% power recharge passive for her. For her specific line, she gets Ice Mistress, reducing the cooldown for all of Lore of Ice spells by 25%, as well as the Winds of Magic reduction by 1 for all the spells. In the Winds of Magic cost reduced by 1 in a further reduction of 1 Winds of Magic cost reduction for Death Frost, Heart of Winter, and Crystal Sanctuary when they are upgraded. Embodiment of Winter helps out with her hit point increase in armor as well as weapon strength plus 20%. Indomitable Spirit helps out with leadership and melee defense of your Ice Guard. Just to kind of show you this, you're getting 6 leadership, 8 melee defense. Couple that with this, you're getting an additional 6 more melee defense as well as melee attack of 6 and missile strength of 8% for your Ice Guard, just to show those bonuses. A Frost Affinity increases your speed by 10%. Con Queen's going to help you out with devotion per turn, as well as diplomatic relations plus 10 with Kislev and control plus 1 for all provinces. Lastly, you get Shield of Ice, which gives you ward save plus 8%. Warhorse, and then War Bear at rank 14 here. Urson's Protection for some missile resistance. Guardian's Call, which is going to be the same ones you get on your Frost Maidens and your Ice Witch, but this is going to make it so that you can summon up a Snow Leopard and have that leopard be juiced, but also get Snow Leopard stock, which increases the speed and grants stock for all Snow Leopards in your army. For your quest item, you get 2 items here. You get the Frost Fang, which is going to reduce upkeep by 5%, income from post-battle loot plus 10%, recruitment cost minus 10%. Melee attack 6, you get magical attacks as well as frostbite. Weapon strength plus 10%, and then the ability Frost Fang, which is a nice little way to do some quick AoE burst damage here, and 48% of the 29 damage being AP as well as magic, which is quite nice against a lot of the stuff you'll be facing. Crystal Cloak is going to be giving you some armor, minus 10% to enemy hero action success chance, wound recovery time -1, melee defense plus 6, ward save 10%, then ability Crystal Cloak, which will give you a damage resistance of 20% for 31 seconds, enabled if casting. So kind of like a layered lore attribute, but strictly applying to her. So these are your skills here for Tzarina Katarin. As you can see, she really focuses on doing quite a bit of damage and increasing the ward save of herself as well as the entire army. We're going to transition now into the hero characters really quick of Kislev before jumping into some research and then some battle mechanics. And just to quickly show this portion off, just like it is true for every other character in Kislev, the Frost Maidens all get access to the Guardian's Call ability, which allows them to summon a Snow Leopard. And as you progress through the ranks, it'll get bonuses like increased melee attack and defense. And lastly, it'll get the biggest bonus to greatly increased melee attack and melee defense. But just to show these characters off for Kislev, as they do have some great abilities here, just to kind of hover over these. And then for the other hero, we have got the Patriarch, which has access to the individual buffs, the individual prayers, but they also get, just like the Ice Witches do, these kind of specializations. Just to kind of hover over these really quick for you. That covers all of the unique skills and whatnot for this character. Let's go ahead and move on into some battle stuff. Curveball, I've lied to you. We're actually talking about technology next. So the research tree for Kislev is split into 4 different trees. And you've got one for the land that you'll always have access to, one for Kislev, one for Erengrad, and then another one for Prague. And the top location for the top portion of each location everyone has access to, but you need to research 5 of the top portion of Prague, Erengrad, or Kislev, and then you get access to the more advanced technologies at the bottom, only if you actually hold that respective location. So, for example, if I jump through 5 of these technologies in Erengrad, and I own Erengrad, I can then research these 6 technologies at the bottom. And some of them are very, very good. Is it Kislev? Yeah, Kislevian Ducat will give you income from trade good producing buildings plus 100%. So these all working in tandem allow for Kislev to have a just disgusting amount of income. And I cannot tell you how hard that goes. Like, Erengrad is your chief port city, and once you get access to it, every single time you increase a specific building there, it adds another tradable resource. I think it starts with just hides, then it goes up to something like iron is your next one, so you have iron and hides from one building. Then I think it's like pottery or marble, whatever it is. You just keep stacking all these tradable things. So all this stuff works in conjunction very well. And on top of it, it does give you a kind of drive to get to these. Because if I say I'm playing as, let's say I'm playing as Boris, right? And I want really good war bears. Well, the only way to get bear baiting, which gives frenzy to your war bear riders, is to hold Kislev, right? Or let's say you want really good ice guard. Well, again, mesh layers, which is going to give missile resistance for Kossars, armored Kossars, Streltsy, and Ice Guard units. That's here in Kislev. Or if I look across the way, Siege Mentality gives melee defense, under siege, ammunition for all the aforementioned units I just talked about, and reload time reduction when I own Prague. So you really need to kind of decide how you're going to select these individual locations, right? Because getting them is going to be chief to your campaign. It's a big driving force for you is to unite all of Kislev, but it gives you access to much better technologies throughout Kislev. And the last ones here on the land, everyone can do. You just simply need to have access to them. But you'll see that there are 4 technologies that require devotion. And each one of these will upgrade the respective invocation of the motherland that they correspond to. So this one, Dodge Cult Customs, upgrades Dodge Invocation of the Motherland, increases income from all buildings and trade, and adds the Land Awakened army ability. Or this one, increases casualty replenishment, growth, and control of all provinces. Just to kind of show these off real quick, melee attack of all units, and this one will help out with melee defense of all armies. So this is your technology tree for Kislev. For unique combat mechanics in Kislev, it's very different for Katarin than the other legendary lords we've talked about thus far. She's the only one who actually doesn't give a ton of benefits to her units in the ways that both Boris and Kosteltian do. What a lovely little snowflake she made. I didn't even know she did that. So let's take a look over here at the character stats, and we'll look over here at the Ice Guard. So the Ice Guard, just like every Kislev unit, they get by our blood. So when their leadership is wavering or lower, for 30 seconds they will get unbreakable, and this only can activate one time. So it allows you to kind of hold the line until a hero or a lord character come to help increase that leadership, or you get reinforcements from the rest of your military. And like I said, when we look at, geez, you're screaming at me. When we look at Kosteltian or we look at Boris, they both get abilities in their character skills that when things are below 25 or 50% health, they get some sort of boon or benefit, whatever it is, by having Boris or Kosteltian nearby. We don't get that with Katarin. She is more focused on just doing a ton of damage. So just to kind of be transparent about that and bring that up, those are kind of the unique battle mechanic differences here between these two legendary lords. But talking about the actual military of Kislev, it is worth noting that every single infantry unit in Kislev is a hybrid unit of some sort. Right now in this army, we have the armored Kossars and the armored Kossars with great weapons, as well as the Ice Guards with swords. They have dual wielding swords. The other infantry unit that is not mentioned here are the Kossars with axes and Kossars with spears. All of those have some sort of adjoining missile unit, or I'm sorry, missile capability. The Ice Guard get bows and arrows. The armored Kossars over here are going to be getting pistols, and then the standard Kossars get bows and arrows as well. So you will have the ability to have a lot of overlapping fire as a, not necessarily a unique mechanic, but a unique kind of character trait of Kislev's armies as a whole. But that kind of concludes our little breakdown here of Katarin's unique combat mechanics. Now that we've gone through so many of these mechanics and really drilled down into Tzarina Katarin, the question is, what kind of campaign is this? Is it going to be the campaign for you? And I think that now that we've talked about Boris and we've talked about Kosteltian, the difference between her and those other two lords is that they start on the fringes, right? They start on the outskirts. You start in the hinterlands of Kislev, at the city of Kislev, with the city of Kislev. So you start in the central power base. You're the only one who has an actual city to get advantages from that specific city's technology right out the gate. And they're very strong, right? The Kislevian Ducat and the actual bear baiting are two very strong capabilities here. And you have just a lot of really nice ones in this location. So that gives you kind of a sense here that this is going to be a slower building campaign than the other two. The other two are very aggressive from the outset. And you can be aggressive as Katarin, but you can also spend a lot of your time building up a very strong military to then push out and take a lot of the regions around you. Because Katarin's campaign is defensive in a different way than Kosteltian's. Kosteltian's is beset on all sides. You are working on rebuilding the mantle, like the central portion of Kislev. So it's easier for you to to confederate into other Kislev nations and to actually have a stronger rapport with all of the old world. So you'll find that in Katarin's campaign, you'll be focusing on the more elite units, right? The Ice Guard and the Tsar Guard. And you'll focus too, of course, on Snow Leopards. So you're getting those kind of bigger, scarier, cooler units of the roster that obviously Kosteltian doesn't benefit from. But you'll be able to build into them at a pace that maybe more fits you, whereas Kosteltian doesn't have the opportunity to build into those because he's beset by chaos almost immediately. So it's a different campaign from the other two because it is so defensive. But I find that of the three, Katarin's campaign is very much focused on the Ice Court and magic. So if you do want to play a campaign where you're rebuilding Kislev from the ground up and really focusing on both the lore of Tempest and the lore of Ice, with a lot of bonuses towards a lot of that stuff because you're reducing the time it takes to go through your Ice Court, then this is definitely going to be the campaign for you, because you'll be pulling those Frost Maidens and Ice Witches into your armies at a very great rate. But hopefully this gives you a better idea of how Tzarina Katarin plays, as well as the other legendary lords of Kislev. If you have any questions or there's anything that I didn't really go over that you wanted to know a little bit more about, by all means, just go ahead and let me know in the comments section below. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.